These guys rewrote the record books, dominated their positions, and became some of the greatest to ever play the game of football. From one of the most unstoppable offensive weapons of all time,
LaDainian Tomlinson, the special one, the gifted one,
to a lockdown corner who made quarterbacks terrified to throw his way.
This game is unmatched.
When he's on the field, he's the best player on the field.
Today we're going through every Hall of Famer drafted in the 2000s and what happened to each of them before and after they earned their golden jackets. By the way, this video is only going to be covering current Hall of Famers, which means they already have to be inducted. Sadly, that means no Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, etc., but there can always be an updated version made in the future once those guys do make it in. So today we're starting with one of the best linebackers to ever step foot onto a field, Brian Urlacher. When he was drafted by the Bears in 2000, nobody knew that he was about to completely change what a middle linebacker could do.
Every game, we expect Brian to make a sack.
And here comes Urlacher, and down he goes!
Harrington under pressure from Brown. Can't escape Urlacher.
Most linebackers at the time were just supposed to be run stoppers, big, physical guys who could fill gaps and make tackles. But Urlacher played a bit of defensive back in college as well as receiver and returner, so he had this freakish speed that let him cover receivers and tight ends down the seam. He tackled really well too, like to the point where if he got his hands on you at all, you probably weren't escaping. The perfect example of that is week 6 of the 2006 season. The Bears were playing the Cardinals. Urlacher put together one of the most dominant performances that you will ever see. 19 official tackles, although the Bears coaches counted 25 after watching the film. He also had 3 quarterback hits and 2 pass deflections during that game. When the Bears needed to play the most, he stripped the ball from Edgerrin James in the 4th quarter, which led to a fumble recovery touchdown by Charles Tillman.
Second down, here's James. And into the line, did the ball come out? It did! It is scooped up by the Bears! Charles Tillman takes it the distance, and Chicago is very much alive!
The Bears came all the way back to win 24-23 after being down 13 points with just 5 minutes left in the 4th quarter. Just a totally insane game. Urlacher basically reinvented the middle linebacker position and was a big inspiration for some of the guys that you see playing today. If it wasn't for Ray Lewis, then Urlacher would have been the biggest name at middle linebacker during his time in the league. These days, Urlacher works as a keynote speaker and brand ambassador. He just delivered a keynote at the 2025 ASI show in Chicago, talking about how his playing days taught him many valuable lessons and much more. Yeah, so Urlacher was awesome, but this next guy, I think he was even better. I think LaDainian Tomlinson's 2006 season is the greatest running back season of all time. That's not an exaggeration. He scored 31 total touchdowns that year, 28 rushing and 3 receiving, breaking Shaun Alexander's record of 28 that he set just the year prior. LT rushed for 1,815 yards, won MVP, and posted the highest approximate value of any player ever in a single season, according to ProFootballReference.com.
You know, being a running back is kind of like being an artist. You got to remember that.
Tomlinson had insane field vision and could jump cut better than almost anybody. He was also the fastest player in history to reach 100 career touchdowns. From the 1-yard line, he was automatic. About as automatic as the tush push is for the Eagles nowadays. Defenders knew it was coming, but they still couldn't do anything to stop him.
When you got the ball inside the 2-yard line, everybody in the stands knew what you were going to do with it.
You knew the LT chants were going to start, and he was going to get in there.
Over his career, LT racked up 13,684 rushing yards and 145 rushing touchdowns, along with 18,456 yards from scrimmage and 162 total touchdowns, which is 3rd all-time behind only Jerry Rice and Emmitt Smith. In his prime, he scored 104 total touchdowns in just 5 years from 2003 to 2007. Which is absolutely ridiculous. After retiring, Tomlinson did a bunch of media and community work. And as of this year, he's an assistant coach at Oak Ridge High School in Arlington, Texas. But while LT was busy winning fantasy championships for everybody that drafted him, this next Hall of Famer was quietly dominating on defense. But quickly, speaking of fantasy championships, I'm a big fantasy football guy and I can't wait to watch my guys put up points every single week. Just that feeling of knowing that you're better than your friends is all the satisfaction that I need. And you're probably thinking, why are you telling us about your fantasy football addiction? Well, because it leads into today's sponsor, Walter Picks. Walter Picks is an app backed by machine learning for fantasy insights and sports betting insights if you're into that. And the best part is, you can use it right on your phone. It uses cutting-edge projections to find the best player props, game bets, and DFS lineups before the lines even move. My personal favorite things in the app are the rest of season rankings that are constantly updated, along with the trade analyzer, which lets you see the trade value of every player so that you don't get ripped off and have an advantage over your league mates. So what are you guys waiting for? Join the thousands of fans who are already winning more. Download Walter Picks today by clicking the link in the description below, or scan the QR code on screen right now to get a 7-day free trial. Big shout out to Walter Picks. Thank you for sponsoring today's video. And I've got to be honest with you guys, Richard Seymour does not get the respect that he deserves. His job wasn't necessarily to rack up sacks, it was to occupy blockers and let the linebackers fly in. There were plenty of times when offenses would have 2 or 3 players focused solely on not letting him get to the quarterback. Even so, Seymour finished his career with 57.5 sacks and 498 tackles. In 2003, he even had 10 pass deflections, which is extremely impressive for his position. Seymour made 5 straight Pro Bowl appearances during his prime and was first team All-Pro 3 straight times. He also played a big part in the Patriots winning 3 Super Bowls while he was there. But his run of dominance didn't necessarily end after he left New England. In 2009, he was traded to the Raiders while he was still playing at an elite level. While he was in Oakland, he made 2 more Pro Bowls over the course of 4 seasons. And you guys want to hear something crazy? After retiring, Seymour became a professional poker player, and he's competed in a bunch of high-stakes tournaments. Then in 2024, he was approved as a limited partner and minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. Imagine retiring from football, you end your career as a Hall of Famer, and you go on to play professional poker. I mean, that just doesn't even seem real. All right, let's move on to Steve Hutchinson, who might be one of the most complete offensive guards in NFL history. From 2003 to 2009, he made 7 straight Pro Bowls and 7 straight All-Pro teams, 5 of those being first-team All-Pro. That's an insane run of dominance at a position that does not get a lot of attention. In Seattle, Hutchinson formed a legendary left side with Hall of Fame tackle Walter Jones. He had everything: athleticism, intelligence, and a mean streak that made people kind of scared of him.
Steve Hutchinson got a great block on the outside of the left guard, and once he got in the open field, it was goodbye.
In 2005, he blocked for Sean Alexander's MVP season, where he racked up 1,958 yards from scrimmage and 28 total touchdowns. Alexander was basically unstoppable that year, and he could not have done it without his offensive line. Then in 2006, Hutchinson left for Minnesota, and you know what he did there? He blocked for Adrian Peterson once he was drafted in 2007. So yeah, this guy blocked for 2 absolute studs in their primes. Hutchinson stayed with the Vikings until the end of 2011, so he just missed out on Peterson's 2,000-yard MVP season. Since his Hall of Fame induction in 2020, Hutchinson has worked as a consultant for the Seahawks, scouting college offensive linemen. Now, as you could probably tell, 2001 had some great players, but 2002, it was all about the defense. And first up, it's kind of easy to forget just how good Julius Peppers actually was. The guy played 17 seasons, but he stayed elite almost the entire time. Most pass rushers start to fall off after 10 or 11 years. Their knees start to go, they lose a step, and suddenly they're a rotational player. But Peppers made the Pro Bowl with the Packers in 2015 when he was 35 years old. He finished his career with 159.5 sacks, which is 5th all-time, along with 719 tackles and 51 forced fumbles. He was named to both the all-decade teams of the 2000s and 2010s, which speaks for itself. And he was a freak athlete too. He's the only player in NFL history with at least 150 sacks and 10 or more interceptions.
Just looking at him, looks like a mutant.
He's picked off by Julius Peppers, who's high-stepping it home to the end zone for the touchdown.
Peppers played for 3 different teams over the course of his career: the Panthers, Bears, and Packers, and he kept producing no matter where he went. And right alongside him in that 2002 draft class was a guy with one of the most unstoppable moves in NFL history. Because Dwight Freeney had a spin move that was so good, offensive tackles knew it was coming, and they couldn't do anything to stop it.
Dwight Freeney finishes people. Watch him on the spin move. Good night. Comes Freeney, and a fumble
I mean, that thing was so fast and so perfectly timed that even when you were ready for it, he would still blow right by you. At 6'1", people thought he was a bit undersized for a defensive end, but that doesn't matter when you're so quick.
Everyone always said I was undersized, too small to play the position. You know, he can't see past the offensive tackle. He won't be able to see the quarterback, but being a couple inches shorter, it gives you a natural leverage.
He led the NFL in forced fumbles as a rookie with 9. Oh, and by the way, he also led the league in tackles for a loss and put up 13 sacks. Then in 2004, he led the NFL with 16 sacks. Freeney was a huge part of those Colts teams that were built to play with the lead and just get after the quarterback. He spent 11 years in Indianapolis, making 7 Pro Bowls and earning 3 first-team All-Pro selections. He finished his career with 125.5 sacks and was named to the All-2000's team. After those first 11 years, though, he did drop off a bit. He played 5 more seasons but did not make another Pro Bowl. Still, his prime was so good that it really didn't matter. Freeney was enshrined in 2024. Then this year, he actually joined the Syracuse football coaching staff as Director of Player Development. Now, there aren't many guys who can top Dwight Freeney, but this next guy up might have a good shot at it. You see, Ed Reed didn't just intercept passes, he turned them into points.
Ed Reed, a one-man wrecking crew for the Baltimore Ravens.
Over his career, Reed had 7 pick sixes. He holds the all-time record for interception return yards with 1,590, and he even has the 2 longest interception returns in NFL history, 107 and 106 yards. When the ball was in the air, Reed was the most dangerous player on the field.
Throws into the end zone, it's intercepted by Ed Reed. He gets away from Cobb and he is still going down the sideline. He goes all the way, touchdown.
His rookie year was solid, 5 picks and 12 pass deflections. By his second year, he made the Pro Bowl, but by year 3, that's when he really took over the league. He won Defensive Player of the Year, made first-team All-Pro, and led the NFL with 9 picks and 358 interception return yards. Reed was everywhere on the field. He studied film obsessively, memorizing opposing teams' tendencies, and this is probably one of the most epic stories that you are ever going to hear.
One of the greatest plays I ever saw him make was against Manning, where he lined up on the weak side of the formation, and on the snap of the ball, he turned and ran to the middle of the field like he was going to play in the middle of the field. And of course, Manning read that and came back and threw the go back to the X. And Reed knew that when he went to the middle of the field that Peyton would come back to the X. So he ran to the middle of the field, but without even looking at the quarterback, he just turned and wheeled.
It was basically a long con. He misplayed coverage on purpose early in the season because he knew Manning would watch it on tape and pick up on it. Then Manning ran a play based on what he'd seen, threw the ball deep, and Reed sprinted across the field and picked it off. I mean, that's some next level stuff. Reed retired with 646 tackles, 64 interceptions, and 7 interception return touchdowns. You won't get many people arguing against him as the best to ever play his position. These days, though, he's all about offense. He's accepted a job as the offensive coordinator at Chamblee High School in Georgia, coaching his son Ed Reed III. But while Reed was dominating on defense, his college teammate was putting up insane numbers on one of the worst teams in football. Andre Johnson has more receiving yards per game than Terrell Owens, Randy Moss, and Larry Fitzgerald.
Oh, what an individual effort. Andre Johnson.
230 pounds of man-child.
Andre Johnson is a big man and a big playmaker.
Let that sink in for a second. Those are 3 of the greatest receivers in NFL history, and Johnson was more productive per game than each of them. He finished his career with 14,185 receiving yards, but here's the thing. Everybody on the list above him either played with an NFL MVP quarterback or a quarterback who at least made it to the Super Bowl. Andre Johnson played for the Houston Texans. I mean, look at these guys that he caught passes from. Tony Banks, Dave Ragone, Matt Schaub, Sage Rosenfels, TJ Yates, Case Keenum, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and Ryan Mallett. They only have 2 Pro Bowls between them. And Johnson still led the league in receptions twice, receiving yards twice, and receiving yards per game 3 times. At the time of his retirement, he held nearly every Texans receiving record and even became the first player in NFL history to record 7 games with at least 10 receptions in a single season during 2008. Since retiring, he's been pretty active in community work and youth development. He was the first player to start his career with the Texans to be enshrined in the Hall of Fame, which is pretty cool. But this next guy up played the game like nobody else. Troy Polamalu basically had a sixth sense that made offensive coordinators lose sleep at night. The guy would line up 7 yards off the line of scrimmage and then somehow end up in the backfield tackling the running back before he even got the handoff. It was like he knew the play before it was even called, and people started calling him the Tasmanian Devil because of the chaos that he created on every snap. And then there was that diving, iconic, one-handed interception that just never gets old.
Rivers, open, Jackson drops it, and Polamalu almost makes the interception. Unbelievable, what a catch. Wow.
Along with Ed Reed, Polamalu completely redefined what a safety could do. He finished his career with 32 interceptions and 12 sacks. Over his career, Polamalu won 2 Super Bowls, made 8 Pro Bowls, and won Defensive Player of the Year in 2010. He was named to 4 first-team All-Pro teams and the All-2000's team. And he had one of the best highlight reels in NFL history for sure. After retiring, he kept on doing his Head & Shoulders commercials, as you've probably seen, the one with Patrick Mahomes recently, and he's done a bunch of community work. But the next guy up on our list went undrafted and still made his way to the Hall of Fame. Antonio Gates never played a single snap of college football, and he still managed to become the all-time touchdown leader for tight ends.
Gates is extremely hard to cover.
He is over! Touchdown San Diego!
Gates played basketball at Kent State, then signed as an undrafted free agent with the Chargers. His rookie year was pretty slow, 24 catches for 389 yards and 2 touchdowns. But by his second season, the guy exploded. He had 81 catches, 964 yards, and 13 touchdowns. He made the Pro Bowl and was named as a first-team All-Pro. Then he did it again and again. 3 straight All-Pro first-team appearances after being an undrafted free agent.
He's a freak of nature. He's a great athlete.
Gates went on to make 8 straight Pro Bowl appearances after that rookie season. He had 4 seasons with 10 or more touchdowns and finished his career with 116 touchdown catches, the most ever by a tight end. When he ended up calling it quits, he had 955 receptions and 11,841 receiving yards. One of his best games came in Week 2 of the 2014 season against the defending Super Bowl champion Seahawks. At 34 years old, Gates caught 3 touchdown passes in a 30-21 win and was named AFC Offensive Player of the Week. Gates doesn't really get the recognition that he deserves because Tony Gonzalez played in the same era, but he was a super reliable weapon and one of the best at his position for sure. When he made the Hall of Fame, he became the first player without college experience to get in, which is kind of crazy to think about. Moving on to our next draft though, it brought one of the best defensive linemen that we have ever seen. Jared Allen had a motor that never stopped running, and a pretty memorable sack celebration too, and he got to do it a lot. The guy had 136 sacks over his career. He led the NFL in sacks twice, including a monster 22-sack season in 2011 that put him second in Defensive Player of the Year voting. Allen had double-digit sacks in 8 of his 12 seasons, and he was just relentless. If you were an offensive tackle, you just could not take a play off. Over the course of his career, he made 5 Pro Bowls and was first-team All-Pro 4 times. Allen never won a Super Bowl, sadly, but he did make it to the big game in his final season, playing for the Panthers, actually. They lost to the Broncos in Super Bowl 50, but getting there after 12 seasons was a great way to cap off his career. When Allen retired, he posted a video on Twitter riding off on a horse. It was the perfect send-off for a guy with that type of sack celebration. All right, moving on to Demarcus Ware from 2005. He was one of the most defining pass rushers of his era. From 2006 to 2012, he made either first team or second team All-Pro every single year. 7 straight years, which is insane consistency at a position where one bad ankle sprain could ruin your whole season. He had double-digit sacks in each of those years and finished his career with 138.5, which puts him 13th all-time. Ware's best year came in 2008 when he had 20 sacks and 27 tackles for a loss. He made first-team All-Pro and came in second for Defensive Player of the Year voting. His signature spin move was deadly, and he even had a fake version of it, which made the offensive lineman look even more ridiculous.
36. Kaepernick is going to get sacked. Demarcus Ware with his second tonight. It's the third.
He spent most of his career with the Cowboys, but he eventually finished his career with the Broncos, where he ended up getting a ring in Super Bowl 50. On the biggest stage, Ware recorded 5 tackles and 2 sacks. Since his Hall of Fame induction, he's worked as a pass rush consultant for the Broncos, mentoring current players like Nick Bonito. This next guy had to wait a few years to get in, but it was inevitable that he would eventually make it. Devin Hester was so good at returning kicks that teams literally had to stop kicking him the ball. His rookie season in 2006, Hester had 2 kick return touchdowns and 3 punt return touchdowns. He made the Pro Bowl and was named first team All-Pro as a returner. Then the next year, he had 4 punt return touchdowns and 2 kick return touchdowns. Teams started to realize that giving him the ball was a great shot at handing the Bears points. Hester led the league in punt return touchdowns 3 times and has the most all-time with 14. That record is going to be hard to break. He was named to both the All-2000's and All-2010's teams, which shows you how dominant he was on special teams. What made Hester so special was his combination of vision, change of direction, and speed. You can find guys who were faster, guys who could cut better, and guys with better vision, but not many people have all 3. He would see a tiny hole, turn towards it without losing any speed, and burst through it before most guys would even notice it was there. One of his best performances came in 2007 against the Broncos in Week 12 when he returned both a 75-yard punt and an 88-yard kickoff for touchdowns in the same game.
Look at a chance here from the 25. 40. Here he goes. Cuts it back, and he is gone. 10-5 touchdown, Devin Hester.
And of course, who could forget Super Bowl 41 when he returned the opening kickoff against the Colts for a touchdown. It took a while for the Bears to use him well on offense, but in 2009 they did target him 91 times and he had 756 yards from scrimmage. When you add his special teams yardage to his scrimmage yards, his all-purpose yards of all time are 14,455, which puts him in the top 50. After retiring, Hester has been active in community work through partnerships with organizations like USAA Salute to Service. Hester is the only guy from the 2006 class to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he most likely will be the only one ever from this class to make it. And then 2007 happened, probably the greatest draft class of the entire 2000s. You know we have to start it off with one of the best receivers of all time, Calvin Johnson, who dominated the league for his entire career. People called him Megatron because at 6'5", he was basically a video game character. He had the size of a tight end, the speed of a track star, and hands that made impossible catches look pretty normal.
Anything you name that speaks of the best athletes or the best receiver that ever played in the game is right there in his body.
I mean, he regularly made beating double teams look easy. He even had a bunch of highlights against triple teams. His rookie year was a little slow, 808 yards from scrimmage, but a lot of receivers start out that way. By his second season in 2008, he led the NFL in receiving touchdowns. And from that point on, he never had less than 1,000 yards from scrimmage for the rest of his career. In 2011 and 2012, Johnson led the NFL in receiving yards. His 1,964 yards from 2012 is still the NFL record today, and we've got to talk about that game in 2013 against the Cowboys. 14 catches, 329 yards, second most all-time in a single game, and 1 touchdown. He was basically the reason the Lions were able to win that game.
And this time Stafford going up on top to Calvin Johnson, who makes the catch.
Yes, of course he didn't have playoff success, but he was on the Lions. It wasn't on him. Back then, making the playoffs at all with Detroit was a hell of an achievement. He only played in the postseason 2 times during his whole career. Megatron retired after just 9 seasons with 11,786 yards from scrimmage and 84 total touchdowns. These days, Johnson co-founded Primitive Group, a cannabis research and innovation company. He's also partnered with Harvard University to study cannabis effects on CTE. But that same 2007 class had plenty more amazing players, like this offensive lineman who never missed a beat. Joe Thomas is one of the most dominant players that I have personally ever watched. And if you want proof, Pro Football Focus gave him a career grade of 96.8 with a 95.9 pass blocking grade. the highest of any offensive lineman in history since they started grading. He's one of only 5 players in NFL history to earn a Pro Bowl selection in each of his first 10 seasons. And he did all this on the Cleveland Browns, a team that only had one winning season during his entire 11-year career. His rookie season in 2007 set the tone for everything that followed. He finished second in Offensive Rookie of the Year voting and was the only player to receive votes outside of Adrian Peterson, who won it. These days, Thomas works as an NFL analyst for Westward One Radio. He's an offensive line coach for the Munich Ravens in NFL Europe and has a podcast with his old teammate Andrew Hawkins. And let me tell you, the defensive stars from that draft class were just as dominant. Patrick Willis ran a 4.56 40-yard dash at the combine, and when you watched him play, you could just tell he was built different.
This guy, Patrick Willis, he snips plays out, and when he accelerates, he accelerates.
Takes the game over. Sometimes the game hasn't even started yet, and he's already has 6 tackles.
Willis could make plays in the backfield, he could run sideline to sideline, he could force turnovers, cover receivers, and blitz the quarterback. He was basically the complete player. Pro Football Focus gave him a 94.3 overall grade for his career, the highest ever for a linebacker. Yeah, even higher than Ray Lewis. He's the only linebacker ever to rank in the top 5 in overall grade, run defense grade, coverage grade, and missed tackle rate. As a rookie in 2007, Willis led the entire NFL in both solo tackles with 136 and combined tackles with 174. He won Defensive Rookie of the Year, while also making 7 straight Pro Bowls and earning 5 first-team All-Pro selections. 2011, he was the leader for one of the most impressive defenses in recent memory. The 49ers finished 13-3 and reached the NFC Championship game, but their defense allowed the least amount of rushing yards and only 3 touchdowns on the ground. The sad part is that Willis only played 8 years because of injuries. The only time he didn't make the Pro Bowl was his last season in 2014, when he only played 6 games. Along with Luke Kuechly, he was the first guy to really challenge Ray Lewis as the best inside linebacker in modern NFL history. These days, he provides linebacker training videos through his CoachTube platform called Build the Beast and mentors current 49ers linebacker Fred Warner. All right, rounding off our list today, we have Darrelle Revis, and there has never really been anyone quite like him since his retirement. He was so good at covering receivers that a lot of the time, quarterbacks would have been better off just throwing the ball into the dirt. That's not an exaggeration either. 2009, according to Pro Football Focus, Revis was targeted 111 times and allowed just 41 receptions, which is a 36.9% completion rate. He allowed a 32.3 passer rating that year, which is lower than when you just chuck incompletions all game long.
Look at what he's done against some of the best receivers, starting in week 1 in Houston against Andre Johnson.
People called it Revis Island because he could isolate top receivers and make sure that half the field was completely off limits. No matter who was lining up across from him, you would not have to worry about that receiver at all.
The thing about Revis, he's patient.
When we sat down and filmed, he's very patient.
What makes Revis the island is he's the most patient corner out there.
Revis literally ran the same route as the receiver and took it away. His football IQ was absolutely insane. The guy wasn't even 6 feet tall, which makes it even more impressive when you see the list of names that he completely took out. In that 2009 season, the Jets defense only allowed 8 passing touchdowns all season long, which is crazy good in the modern NFL. Revis made the Pro Bowl in his 2nd season, and by his 3rd, he was first-team All-Pro and finished 2nd in Defensive Player of the Year voting. He was named to the first-team All-Pro 3 straight times before getting hurt and missing most of 2012, but in 2013 with Tampa, he was back to being a Pro Bowl level player. And in 2014 with the Patriots, he made first-team All-Pro yet again. He retired with 496 tackles and 29 interceptions. These days, he's been mentioned as a potential candidate for the NFLPA Executive Director position, using his experience to potentially lead the Players Union. All right, so those are the current Hall of Famers drafted in the 2000s, but I want to know what you guys think. Which of these guys had the best career? Let me know in the comments down below. And which player can't you wait to make the Hall of Fame that already isn't in there? Once again, I want to quickly shout out Walter Picks for sponsoring today's video, and don't forget to download the app using the link in the pinned comment or description below for a 7-day free trial. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, drop a thumbs up and subscribe. Also, check out this video right here because I am sure you will love it.